Welcome back to the Musicpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Nico Santana. This last week, I had an opportunity to interview Mario, aka Malo Beats. A Southern California native, Malo Beats started producing his music around the age of 14. He's amassed over 20,000 subscribers on YouTube and currently makes a full-time living off of his YouTube. While things weren't handed to him, Malo Beats has made the appropriate sacrifices to pursue his dreams, create his online business, and grow from there. This episode is brought to you by DistroKid, the preferred distributor for all musicpreneurs. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. Hey Mario, thank you for joining me and the musicpreneur community on our Musicpreneur Podcast. Appreciate you taking the time, brother. And I know that you go by, is it Malo Beats? Is that the official producer tagline?
Yeah, man. Malo Beats, man. Malo Beats. Yeah.
That's what's up.
Malo Beats. And thank you for having me here, man. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited for this. I'm looking forward for this. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah, man. I know you're based out of Southern California, rather. So talk to me a little bit about, kind of growing up in that area. What inspired you to make music and kind of just get into this music world?
Well, yes, I'm actually from Southern California and actually from a small town right here in Pomona, here really close to LA. And I was born and raised right here. And ever since, from a very young age, from what I can remember, about 14 to 15 years old, the way I got into making music is from my brother. I have actually two older brothers. The middle brother, he just kind of invested a few moments in me and showed me a little bit on GarageBand. I think that's what he had in his computer since he edited videos. And he showed me a little bit in GarageBand, and from there I kind of fell in love with making music, but I don't know how to play any instrumentation. I would just grab loops and put it on top of each other. In GarageBand you have all these MIDI loops and all that, so that's kind of how it started for me. And then I felt like I was making music, right? And I would show it off to my brothers, my friends, and people would be like, "Yo, man, this sounds really cool," and people would start rapping over it, but nothing serious. It was just kind of having fun, and that's where it started growing from there. Little by little, I started taking it serious as I was, growing, and that's kind of how I started with me making music.
Nice, man. Yeah, loops is the way to go. I feel like it's kind of like learning to cook, and I'm not a great cook by any means, so this is probably a horrible analogy, but it's kind of like just taking the recipe, somebody else's recipe, and doing your thing with it, and then eventually learning it enough where you can kind of mold it to your liking, customize it, maybe start to learn how to make some of the ingredients from scratch. That's kind of like the learning to play the instrument, and then you do your thing, and as you progress you kind of get better at it. So that's cool, man. That's awesome. I noticed that you were an audio engineer for prior to really kind of shifting gears here with your YouTube channel and beat making videos. So what led you down the path of audio engineering?
Man, well, it's actually interesting because when I started making music for my brother, like I didn't know anything about music or audio. I didn't even know what a producer was. I was just a young kid, and I was like that annoying little brother that it's kind of like, yo, man, like just hang out there, like don't follow us. And I would just be making music, and the beats that I would take, it started sounding, at first they were cheesy and not cool, but then it started sounding a little better, and it began to get better and better. And once I kind of saw there was potential, I kind of started thinking of what I wanted to do as I was going to graduate high school. And I knew I love audio. And at that time, back in like 2004, 2005, like YouTube wasn't even a thing. There was no such thing as social media. So for me, I knew being real with myself was, man, I got to be like a world-class producer to make it and actually make a living off of this during that time, because I was not going to live off of it if I was okay, or if I was just making beats, on the side. So to me, it was kind of like winning the lottery, and it was like, oh man, it's going to be tough. So I was like, you know what? I want to get into audio, and I know I enjoy the process of recording, of just mixing, because I would mix some of the songs we would do. So I kind of started getting into that, and I started looking at magazines on producers. I think it was Sound on Sound magazines. Back then, that was kind of like my YouTube on how people would record, what kind of microphones they would use, techniques, the microphone placements, and this album was recorded in this studio. So that caught my attention. So I started falling in love with the techniques of recording, and I got really deep into that. So long story short, I started putting together a studio where we would live. My parents gave me the garage and were like, hey, you know what? Start building your studio, your recording studio. So little by little started building. And the way I started with recording bands, it was actually funny because I would make beats and I would record my friend rapping on the beats. Sounded like garbage, and none of the audio quality was good. But I think it was like a local band, somehow they heard one of my CDs. Had nothing to do with their style of music, but they approached me and they said, hey, you know what? You record music. We heard one of your CDs. Could you record our next album? And I was like, yo, man, like I don't have anything to record a band. I only have one microphone. I had a 2-channel interface, and this is like a full-blown band. So I pretty much told them the truth. I was like, I don't have any recording gear, but you know, if you guys pay me by getting me at least the foundation on how to start recording a band, we'll just call it even. So they bought me like the basics. I think I had like a 003 back then from DigiRack or something like that, which came with 8 inputs. It was an audio interface. And then I got like some really cheap microphones. And with that alone, I was like, all right, cool, let's start recording. And yeah, it was just recorded drums, bass, pianos, vocals. And yeah, it sounded so bad. Like I was so embarrassed, but you know, they were happy with it. And then once they pushed that out, you know how word of mouth happens, and so other friends from them were like, hey, you know what, who recorded your album? And they would start coming to me, and I started kind of taking off from there. And I was just learning as I was going. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was just, again, reading magazines, doing my research, how this was recorded, and I was just learning trial and error. And these bands, not to talk bad about them, but they weren't really known bands. They weren't big artists. So for them, just having me on the side was good for them. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, I'm learning from them. So that's kind of how I got into recording. And obviously mixing came along because I was mixing their albums since they weren't going to pay anybody else to mix it. So that helped me a lot when it came down to the audio side of things. Golly, man, I had to take a quick break right there.
Today's episode is brought to you by DistroKid, the preferred distributor for the musicpreneur. Now, what better way to turn your passion into part-time or full-time profit than getting your music distributed to over 150 different digital streaming platforms? As an artist or producer, you can create an account, upload unlimited amounts of times, and use all the great features that DistroKid has to offer to promote your music and make sure that you're industry ready. On top of that, they've just unleashed a brand new feature that allows artists and producers to master their tracks using DistroKid's platform. Go ahead and head over to distrokid.com using my link, distrokid.com/VIP/Nico Santana for 7% off your annual subscription. Thanks again to DistroKid for sponsoring this episode. Now back to the podcast. No, you're good, man. I was like enthralled just listening to you and hearing your story, bro. That's awesome. And I think that goes to show, you know, I've talked to several artists and musicians and producers in this podcast, and we've all kind of came to the consensus that, yeah, even though perhaps getting a degree in audio engineering may have been kind of the foot in the door back in the day, especially us who come from either right towards the beginning of the YouTube university era or kind of, you know, the DIY where it didn't become as centralized or was rather decentralized for you to get your foot in the door in doing some of these things like audio engineering, recording engineering, mixing, mastering, all that good stuff. You kind of just hit the ground running, right? You did your basic research, you got some basic equipment, and you just started. And a lot of the hang up for a lot of artists nowadays is, do I have the right equipment, right? Do I have the right camera, the right microphone, so on and so forth. But it sounds like you were a hustler, man. You got what you needed, and you hit the ground running. From there, as an audio engineer, now you're shifted more towards creating your brand as a producer. Talk to me a little bit about how that transition has come to be? And are you still doing the audio engineering on the side, or is this kind of your full time as far as, music production goes?
Yeah, so that's actually interesting because when I was recording bands, I always would make beats. And that's something that I really want to say real quick is that I've always made beats. That has been something that was engraved in me from that young age that my brother introduced me to music and how to make beats, right? Like that was engraved in me. I fell in love. The love that I grew for it was like no other. Like nothing would stand before me when it came down to making beats. But I just knew that I was probably not going to make it, like just making beats and making a living off of it at that time. So I went into recording bands. But even though I was recording bands, and those bands that I was recording had nothing to do with beats and boom bap style, like they weren't cool bands. It wasn't cool music. It was music that I would not even listen to. But hey, you know what? It was helping me get better with audio. I was always making beats in the side. So that was always right next to me, right? So I no longer record bands right now. I don't, I have no gear to record bands, and I don't want to go back to that at all. I kind of fell out of love from recording. And I think that's actually a pretty important topic too, because I was so deep into recording these bands, and it was not music that I enjoyed. And I started mixing my, I don't know how they say, like, don't mix your pleasures with business, right? But I started just saying yes to all these bands that it was not my style of music, but it was paying me. And I noticed that I started kind of making some money, right? And I was like, yeah, let's go. And I started piling up a few bands. And before I knew it, I burnt out. And the reason why I burnt out is because it was bands and music that I would, once you record, you have to mix, run their voice through auto-tune, and you're spending hours after hours just, all right, let's go to the next song. Now we're going to the next song. And I burnt out because it was stuff that I didn't like, but I was accepting it for the money. And that was a lesson that I learned in that time, that, hey, you do not mix. If you don't like something, and if it is not something you're looking forward and you're excited to work on, don't say yes. Like, it's okay to say no. And when I was young, like, I would not say no to anybody. So that burned me out. I just kind of grew out of love. I hated it. And I started just like, man, I can't believe I'm going to spend the next few weeks mixing this. And it was just really bad. I just kind of decided I don't want to do this no more. I hate it. I'm going to put it to the side. And I just kind of walked away from it. I sold all my microphones, and I just kind of like just got out of the whole recording and mixing. But when it came down to beats, that always stood next to me. That always stood next to me. I had no interest in becoming any type of audio engineer anymore, but I knew I always had my MPC, and that was my way of just kind of finding my escape. I always made music, and till this day, well, obviously I still do. But when I walked away from audio engineering, I went into film, and I went into video. I went into filming video for my local church. And then after my local church, it happened the same way with my recording bands. Word of mouth, somebody liked my video, and then a small business around the town liked the video. And I started kind of getting my name out there with my video company. And that helped me a lot because I started learning a lot in video, and I started getting very good in video. But again, I was doing video for businesses, for local churches, and that was helping me get better at visuals. Once I went into video, I kind of, since I was already good at video and I had some basic understanding on how to film, how to light up with cameras and all that, that's kind of where I start shifting back into audio, into beat making. And that kind of has a different shift when I come back right now. And this is where we're at now, that I have my YouTube channel. Because when I came back into video, I knew where I fell off when I went out of love. And I said, hey, if I'm going to come back and I guess reopen my studio, but it's just like me making beats, I told myself I'm going to do a promise to myself that I'm going to just have fun. I'm not going to get too technical. I'm not going to get too complicated. I just want to have fun. I want to be a kid. I want to be unprofessional, I guess, because when I try to be all professional with it, I start getting technical and I start, bringing out all these mixing plugins and all that. Like, no, I just want to have fun, have a good time. I'm not trying to make this to sound the best sounding mix in the world. Like, I just want to have a good time. And I'm going to promise myself that it's going to stay like that. And that's when I started opening up my YouTube channel and started making videos. And until this day, I've still, I've kept it fun and I've kept it very simple workflows, and I'm still having fun. It's been almost, I'm already going to hit almost 2 years doing my YouTube, but it's been fun because I told myself not to overcomplicate things. So that's been very helpful for me.
Yeah. I noticed that you hit 20K subs, and for doing it for 2 years, man, I've been kind of on the YouTube grind for years, and I'm definitely not where you are, but you could tell. I'm looking at your YouTube channel right now, the aesthetics, your uploads are consistent, the thumbnails look amazing, and it's crazy how like all these things that you've gone through, from recording bands that you weren't really passionate about to then shifting over to honing in on your video craft, which is very similar to the journey that I've been on myself, has now yielded the results that you have with your YouTube channel, which is amazing. And part of the podcast here is really to not just talk about kind of the behind the scenes stories of the artists and producers that I've had a chance to speak with, but also dive into kind of the more businessy side of the house, because I know like a lot of us have, obviously we have a passion for what we do, right? That's why we got into it in the first place. But where a lot of people burn out, or where a lot of people unfortunately fall off, is that they can't transfer their passion into profits. And they're unable to make that bridge between how do I actually monetize the thing that I enjoy the most and make either a part-time or a full-time income from it. From the moment that you were doing the audio engineer work to now you're doing video services for clients, now you're shifting into building your brand. Talk to me a little bit about how you've either figured out how to structure your business. Are you still in the process of figuring out how to monetize your passion? What has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, man, it's actually, thank you for that question. I think it was life-changing when I first got a paycheck from YouTube, which was actually $10.43. I know exactly the number. To me, that was life-changing. Again, going back to when I was a little kid, I was like 14 years old. I fell in love, and I always dreamed about how can I make a living off of this? Like, can I ever make a living off of just making beats, right? That was like, again, like winning the lottery, and that to me was so far from my reach that I kind of gave up on it and just decided to do beats as a hobby. But once I got paid $10, I was like, what? I just got paid $10 just to make music? Like, I mean, I make beats all the time for no money. This is not like, this is one thing I will say right now, and I'm sure you'll be able to resonate with this, but to me, everybody's different. Everybody has different goals, and nobody, I'm not saying that I'm right or wrong, but to me, making music, making beats, putting out beats is a part of me. It's a part of my personality, and it's not something that I'm trying to do. It's not something that I'm pursuing, right? This is something that is now become a part of who I am. And that's why I say, like, I've been doing this for years without getting any money, but I love it so much that is part of my life now, right? So when I first got paid, I was like, yo, this is awesome. If I can make $10, I'm sure I can make $20. And that was from, Google AdSense, and, just kind of being consistent with it, not really trying to chase how much they're going to pay me, but it just kind of grew from there. 1 week was $10, the next week was $20, and then 30, 40, and it just kind of kept growing as I was growing my community. But my main objective since I started this was just not really trying to show how is it like check out my beats. It's not really, my channel is not like, yo, check out this beat I just made on the MPC. More than that, my channel is more about check out how I'm making this beat. Because when I was younger, I would love reading these magazines on how these Grammy Award winning producers would record their bands. So that to me was inspiring. That's all I needed for me to run back home and start making music, because I was inspired. So for me now, it's kind of like what inspired me. Just workflows, how people did their music, how people accomplished the sound that they got. So I do that with my channel. On my channel, I kind of show people, hey, maybe this is not your style. Maybe this is not, hip hop music or sample based production is not your preference, but check out how I made this beat. And a lot of people want to implement a little bit of what I'm doing into their style of music. So that was very helpful for me, kind of growing my channel and just sticking with a small crowd. Obviously, I'm sample-based production, and that's the people that I talk to. But I have all kinds of people that join the channel, but that's kind of like my specific target is sample-based producers. But that just kind of helped my channel grow, which obviously once my channel started growing, I would start getting paid from Google for the Google AdSense. And again, I started monetizing my passion. And that's something that was awesome, because this is something I was doing without getting paid. It wasn't about getting paid. I would have given up years ago if it was about that. But since I could probably buy some dinner, this is cool. It wasn't enough for me to live off of, but hey, it's a kickback in the side for me to do what I love to do. And at the same time, also grow this community that I'm building.
It's crazy because, and thank you for sharing that, Mario, because I think not enough people have your mindset when it comes to whether it's pursuing music as a hobby, a passion, or a full-time project or what's the word I'm looking for, full-time career. But I think that there's this video that Gary Vee, and I know he's hit or miss for a lot of people, but Gary Vee, the digital marketer, was talking about how the new creator economy is being able to just talk about what you really love, and that those eyeballs, whether it's through AdSense, whether it's through, I notice you have channel members on your YouTube, whether it's like a paid subscription model, channel members, Patreon, whatever the case is, there's bound to be 10, 15, 20, 100, 1,000, in some cases even more, people that are willing to invest in learning about that craft that you're so passionate about. And you sound very passionate about it. You're very well knowledged in the area. Obviously, sample-based beats is your thing. So clearly there's a market for it. But more importantly, like you said, man, you're just passionate about it. The money is just the icing on the cake. And the cool thing is, like myself, we can make a part-time income. Maybe it's something that just gives us a little bit of extra buffer for the month to month, or maybe it's something that we can fully invest back into our hobby, our personal pursuit or passion, and buy the equipment that we want, without necessarily breaking the bank. Yeah. I know you got a family, I got a family too, and it's like the older you get, the more responsibilities you have. So have you seen that between AdSense and like your channel members, has that steadily grown? Are you looking into other ways of monetization, or are you content with where you are and just looking to continue producing videos consistently and hoping the channel grows? What's kind of like the future look like for you?
Yeah, so for me, actually, even before I really started focusing and putting my energy in my YouTube channel, because right now I'm going all in my YouTube channel, and it's something that I'm just kind of like diving in 100% with it. But before I was here, I was actually had an online business, and our online business with my wife and I, we obviously had our photography and video business that we were doing. And then throughout that journey, we said, let's go and check out some ways we could make some money online. So we kind of started getting into selling on Amazon. I don't know if you probably have heard of Amazon FBA. We just kind of started getting into that. We tried it for a bit, and there was actually some pretty cool success we had right there, but nothing really wild. The only thing about that type of business was, if anybody doesn't know what Amazon FBA is, it's just you're selling, you putting a label on a product and just launching it. The reason why we didn't stick with it is because we were building a brand that was not my passion. You can't sell what you want because it's probably not going to make money. You got to get into something that's already making money. So for us, we were looking at just dumb stuff that was like, hey, that's making a bunch of money. Let's get it and let's brand it. Let's put a name on it and a logo. And that's pretty cool. And it might be for some people, but really quick, I learned like, no, that's not my thing, because I'm not passionate over that. I'm just making $1 off of it. So for me, when I came into my YouTube channel, I kind of had some knowledge I was learning already through that online business. And I was like, you know what? This is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I truly love. This is something that I know, kind of going back to what you were saying with Gary Vee, like that is so true, because it's like, this is something that I can talk all day long about with somebody. You know, if I find a friend, he sits down right here with me and we're talking music, we'll spend hours right here talking about music. So if that's something that you feel or anybody feels, it's like, yo, man, that's your people right there. That's your niche. If you could just sit down and nerd out with somebody else about that for hours, that's probably the best thing for me to talk about. So for me, right now, going into my channel, I'm finding different ways to make some income through my channel. One of them is through Google AdSense, which actually, you know, it depends on how many views you get. And if you get a lot of views, you get paid pretty decent, but it's not enough to live off of 100%. But you also have, like you said, YouTube memberships, which again, it's a little kickback, but it's not, you know, big old chunk of money that you'll get. But my idea is like, hey, if I can make $5 here a month, that's cool. I'll claim that, you know. I always look at my bank account and I'm like, if sometimes I'm like, yo, man, where's all my money going? I always notice the small, stupid subscriptions of like $5 here, $10 there. And I'm like, yo, it adds up. So just the way I would see my money be gone because of these $5 subscriptions, I'm like, I'm okay with opening up small streams of income, even if it's only $20 or $10 or $5. I'll take that, you know, and I will build from there. My YouTube AdSense does pretty good, and the YouTube channel memberships does really good as well. But one thing that actually helps me the most is my sample packs. You know, I put out my sample packs, and that actually helps me the most. And I feel like the reason why that does so good for me is because in my channel, I'm making beats. You know, I'm showing people how I'm making beats. So when people are inspired and people are like, yo, man, like I'm so inspired by this video, this moment right now as I'm watching this. What people will usually do, because I would do this a lot, is, man, what do you got? You know, like, what do you have to offer? Like, let me buy that sample pack and follow along. And I want to sound that type of sound that you're getting. So if I'm able to inspire somebody or give somebody the inspiration to go home and make some music, most likely they'll probably pick up a sample pack that I'm offering or that I'm rocking with. I always tell my people, like, you know what, you guys can use any other sample pack, you know, but I obviously have my sample pack. So if you guys like the sound of this, which I'm already showing, most likely they're gonna, they'll pick it up. So right now, that's actually been really, really good for a way to make some income through sample packs.
Yeah, man, the digital product is definitely it. And you said a lot there with starting from kind of your journey in online business and digital business to now obviously focusing your attention on what you are truly passionate about and making a business around that. But still, it's in the online environment. Quickly for me, I learned that if I wanted to be successful as an independent artist, I had to treat my craft, my videos, everything as kind of a part of a wheel, like pegs to a wheel, if you will. And that wheel was really online business, right? Unless you have a ton of money and you're going out to tour and all that stuff, like where you're literally the asset and you're going to different shows, selling merch and all that stuff. I think the primary source of income for you is, for most artists, is through digital, right? And whether, like you said, sample packs for artists that don't produce, maybe it's their own music, uploading on DistroKid or what have you, and streaming income, Google AdSense, like you mentioned. And then any other form of Patreon or membership subscriptions as well. Thanks for breaking that down, man. That's awesome. Are you currently, is this your full-time thing? Are you supplementing this with other business endeavors? Are you what's your current status right now, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind at all. And that's pretty crazy that you asked that right now, because we're actually, like I was mentioning before we were recording this, I'm about to move out. By the way, I don't want you guys to see what's back here, but it's like our bed, our kitchen, and we live in a small studio bedroom, which is technically a garage, a 2-car garage. But it's a living space for us. My wife and I, before we moved in here, like we could have been anywhere else, not here. Like we could have chosen to get a house or rent a house and be there. But we pretty much just kind of burned everything off. We got rid of everything, car payments, any type of big payments that we could live without. And it was a drastic plug to pull, and it was tough. I don't recommend anybody do it. Just talk to your partner if you're married. Make sure you guys are both on board, because this is not something I would do by myself if she wasn't on board with me. But we pretty much got rid of everything, and we knew we were going to start a business. And in order for us to start a business, it was going to require a lot of time from us. Not only time, but not us just spending a bunch of money on stuff that we might not really need at the moment. And it was going to be a journey for the next 2 to 3 years, or however long it was going to take us to eventually live off of what we're actually doing. And it exactly how our plan went. Right now, we've been here this is our 3rd year, and we're about to move out in about 3 to 4 months. And now that we're moving out with the business that we've built. And right now, the 2 businesses that we have is my wife. Well, she took off the whole photography side, and she focuses on photography. So she's doing really good in that side. And me now doing what I'm doing right here with my YouTube channel. And I also have a few clients that I still have for video. I'm not really putting myself out there as a videographer, but there's some clients that stuck with me, and I work with them month to month. So that helps me a lot as well. And my YouTube channel, which does very good. Now, one thing I do want to say, I don't want anybody to think like, oh man, that's so cool, man, you're living good. Like, we are blessed, and we are living, we're able to live, but I do not drive no fancy car. I'm not, flashing, some crazy clothing. I'm living just, getting by with us being able to do what we love. Now, not saying we're going to stay there. There's always room for growth, but being able to start from the bottom, at least to be able to feed your family, to drive your car, put gas in your car, pay your bills, being at that starting level, it's an awesome level to start with, because from right there, if you're doing what you're doing with your business and is doing a growth every other month, then there's only one way to go, and you're only going to keep going up and up and up. So that right now, this is where we're at. We're at the very bottom of being able to live off of what we love. And I think that's the very important part. So right now that we move, it's obviously the goal is to continue to grow. Dude,
that's amazing, man. Congratulations. I know that's a huge feat. And I don't know if you're a Dave Ramsey fan, but it sounds like you guys went the Dave Ramsey route, cutting all your debts and lowering your expenses, even if you're not like...
Dude, yeah.
The thing about it is, again, going back to Gary Vee, it's like live below your means, so much so that you don't need the whistles, the bells, all that good stuff, right, that people see online. If you're literally taking care of your needs, your rent, your basic expenses off of your passion, bro, you're wealthy. Like that's really the bottom line.
Yeah, man. That's why I say, I would never pull this plug if anybody's married or lives with a partner. Like always talk and respect your partner. Don't do something because you just want to. If you're alone, then you do what you got to do, right? But that's something that we both agreed on. And I like fancy stuff. My wife obviously loves fancy stuff, but we said, hey, you know what? We're going to hold our breath and we're going to survive with what we need at the moment. And once we get to the level where we could, go out on some pretty cool vacations, then awesome. We'll do it with our money, with what we've built, instead of, having to do it for somebody or working for somebody else, or not being able to get a vacation day because I don't have no more vacation days. So it's just our way of thinking, our mentality. Like everybody's different. Everybody thinks a little different, but it's been fun for us. It's been a journey for us. We've fallen even more in love in the process with my wife and I, because it has been tough. We've sacrificed a lot of moments with friends that we could have gone, but we didn't because we couldn't at the moment. But right now, as we're transitioning, we kind of look back through these 3 years and say like, man, it was all well worth it. Now, again, like I said, we're not crazy, all rich and balling or anything like that. But man, we're so happy to be able to do what we love and start from right here.
Yeah, it's a beautiful journey, man, and thank you for sharing that. Because it's one thing to try to do something by yourself, and another thing to have a partner with you that aligns with your basic core values and beliefs, and you both are on that same journey together, and you'll go further that way. At the end of the day, if it's just you going one way and your partner going the other way, it's tough. But if you're aligned, I'm married too, and so my wife and I have had to make sacrifices to make sure that we're both on the same page and aligned with whatever it is that God has in store for us, and that we, firmly believe that, we want for our lives and ourselves and our children. So I appreciate you sharing that, Mario. I definitely want you to have full reign on plugging anything in. So are you working on any new sample packs? Where can people find your stuff? Both sample packs and obviously your YouTube. I'll link all that stuff here. But anything that you want to share that you have either coming up or that you feel really proud of that you'd like for people to support you through?
Yeah, man. Actually, my sample pack volume 3 actually just dropped about 3 days ago. So you guys can pick that up. And obviously you can see all my work through my channel, Malo Beats. Just search me up in YouTube, and you got all this content that I have right there on the MPC. I rock the MPC, but I do my best to just leave it open for anybody that loves sample-based production, that enjoys just watching other people making beats. If you're a nerd like that, then come and hang out with me, and man, again, man, I appreciate you, man, for taking the time with me. Like, that really means a lot, man.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. This episode was brought to you by DistroKid, produced by my company NTS Media, and hosted by myself, Nico Santana. If you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to join our online community on Patreon, patreon.com/Nico Santana. Make sure to join the Musicpreneur tier to get access to exclusive interviews, exclusive content, tips, tutorials, and more. This year, we'll be releasing some amazing tools for the everyday musicpreneur, so stay tuned for that. On top of that, you'll get access to one-on-one support, mentorship, coaching, and the like. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give it a like, share it with a friend, subscribe to our channel, and watch the following episode. Much love until next time.